I'm on the phone with Simon Loveridge, who has done a number of metal covers of video game songs over the years, including a couple Pokemon ones that we'll be talking about today. And Simon, we just really want to know more about your work. First off, where are you from? And how'd you get into doing music?
Hi, I'm from the UK. I've lived there my whole life. I grew up sort of near Oxford. Currently, I'm living in Leamington Spa, which is a little further north. It's kind of near the Birmingham area. And that's where I've been living for the last 5 years with my wife. And how did I get into music? I've been into music my whole life, basically, since, honestly, before I can remember. We had a piano in the house, and both my parents were kind of musical. My dad played a lot of piano. So really, it all started from just learning stuff that my dad would teach me. And I played video games for as long as I can remember as well. And I've always loved video game music. So those two things just sort of merged together. I did kind of proper piano lessons and learned classical music and that sort of stuff, and we had music lessons in school. But the video game music, figuring tunes out and how to play them on the piano and doing my own versions of them, that's the thing that's always been my big, like, the thing that I'm passionate about. You know, scales and sort of boring stuff is fine and it gets you a long way, but you've got to be into something and be passionate about something. And for me, that was always game music. So yeah, that's how it started, I guess.
How did the actual YouTube channel get started then? When did you start sort of publishing these?
So I think my first, I had a look the other day, and I think it says I've been on there since 2008. And that was back when I just sort of basically made a channel just to stick a couple of random videos up. And I think they've always basically been video game things. I did a couple of other like metal covers, like a Megadeth track, and I think possibly like a Rush song or something. But there was no kind of big plan or anything. It was just, I did some recording and I thought, just put it up and see what happens. Never thinking that, I'll try and turn this into something big. It was just kind of like, it'd be cool to have something up there. That I basically did it like, I sort of worked like that for quite a few years, where there was no real commitment. There was no social media pages that went with it, or no channel art or anything like that. No structure. It was just kind of anytime I felt like uploading a video, I would. And it usually ended up being about a year. So it kind of got to, I think, 2016 or 17 maybe. Yeah, just over a year ago, where I think the months leading up to March, I was thinking, right, I want to get back on the case. I want to actually turn this YouTube thing. It was sitting with about 100 and something subscribers, and I thought it'd be cool to just sort of get back on it and start recording a track every week and put out proper videos and make sure that all the videos are the kind of, I don't know how many of them you've seen, but what I do is I try and make every video as similar as possible. It's always 6 screens, 5 of which are me playing music, and then one of them is the actual gameplay. And I wanted to sort of try and basically come up with some consistency. Every week it would be the same kind of thing, but it would be just a random track. And I really tried to stick to that once a week schedule, keep it uploading regularly, and try and basically build up an audience. And it's sort of been reasonably kind of slow going, but it's kind of, it's always on the up. I think I'm on about just shy of like 800 subscribers now. But yeah, so it's basically been the last year and a half, I guess, nearly, where I've been sort of really committing to it and treating it more as like here's a channel you can come back to every week and there will be new content. And I think that's probably the best way to get more engagement, I guess, more of an audience.
Now, one trick with video game music is that, some of it has been published in like sheet music form and stuff like that, but a lot of it isn't. How do you go about sort of figuring out the notation and arrangement and stuff like that?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. There is some sheet music stuff out there. I'm sure you can probably find quite a bit, but for the most part, I actually figure it all out by ear, and that's kind of how I've really always learned music. I was kind of taught to read sheet music when I was a kid, but I found it I've always found it easy just to sort of listen to something and then figure out the notes kind of in my head and work out how to play that on a guitar or on a piano or whatever. And I guess as the years went on, I guess I got better at picking out chord sequences and slightly more complex stuff, to the point now where I think I can pretty well listen to sort of most tracks, unless it's something particularly crazy, where I can pick out the melodies and the harmonies and the chords just by ear and translate that onto the guitar just from using kind of the music theory that I know, basically. There are a couple of tracks which I have actually used sheet music for, like, and for one of them was actually the cover of SS Anne that I did from Pokémon Red and Blue and Yellow. There's just the melody parts in that are all a bit complicated, and I think I could have sat there for ages and ages and try and figure it out, but it was actually easier just to quickly stick it into Google and basically find out the sheet music from that. The other thing that's actually helped me quite a bit is I actually worked for a video game company in Leamington Spa, and we actually worked on the latest version of Guitar Hero Live, which came out a couple of years ago. And my job on that was to listen to the tracks and basically turn them into gameplay. So if you've played Guitar Hero before, you have the notes that come down the highway towards you. It was my job to create those notes and to actually make the games from that. And so a lot of that was, training my ears to pick out guitar parts and figure out exactly kind of what was going on, and doing that every day for however long we worked on it, a couple of years, 3 years. It really helped with listening to a track and figuring out really what's going on kind of behind the scenes and stuff. So that was another part of it, I guess.
Interesting. Well, going back to that SS Ann one that you did recently.
Yeah.
First of all, why did you choose that song? Is there certain selection criteria? Is it just what interests you, or are there certain types of tunes that you look for?
It's kind of a bit of everything, really. Like it mainly boils down to what interests me, and also there's I guess the selection criteria is, can I actually do this? Like, is this going to be feasible to sit down and actually record guitar parts for? There are some tracks like a lot of the Shovel Knight music, and actually a lot of the Pokemon music, like the battle themes and stuff, where people say, yeah, you should do the battle theme from Pokemon Red or from Gold or whatever. And as much as I would love to, I sit and listen to it, and you've got these crazy fast synth lines that are moving along. It's a frantic piece of music, and that's by design. You want it to be a crazy bit of music. And I kind of have to work with my physical limitations. I feel like I'm a decent rhythm guitarist, and I'm an okay lead guitarist. I'm not great with all the super fast, shredding, accurate stuff. So I kind of have to work with my limitation. And I think the SS Ann track really, I was just, every now and then I just sort of go back to Pokemon because it's such a good selection of music across all the games. And I just sort of listening through the soundtrack, I think on YouTube, I think I was just trying to find ideas just to see if there's anything that stuck out. And I got to SS Ann, and I really love the music. It's this really beautiful melody that sort of comes in, and then you've got this counter melody that kicks in after a few seconds, and then another one. What you end up with is 3 melody parts that it's all kind of these lines are all weaving together, and they create this beautiful sequence. And one of my favorite things is to take something that doesn't sound like it should be in a metal track. It doesn't sound like it should be done on distorted electric guitars, and putting it into that context, you get this really nice juxtaposition where it's like, this shouldn't work as a heavy metal song, but it kind of does. And I think that is where I find quite a lot of joy when I'm picking out these tracks. If I think, this might work, and then I give it a go and I go, actually, that sounds really cool. The guitar parts playing all those melodies works really well, and you've got these slightly heavier, nice chords going on in the bottom. So SS Ann was just one of those ones where I listened to it thinking, this might sound really weird, it might not work, but I'll give it a go. And I think fairly quickly I had a good idea that it was going to end up sounding quite cool. And by the time I've got the finished version, listened through it, it's one of my favorite ones I've done recently, just because of how it feels like it shouldn't work, but it does, I guess.
Are there any particular passages from the song that really struck you that you haven't mentioned so far?
Yeah, I mean, that opening bit, that opening sequence is obviously really nice, but there's a bit in the second, I guess if you were to, because the melody's not that long, really. It's actually is a repeatable sequence. It's only about 20, 30 seconds long. But the second half of it, where you've got this really lovely sequence, and it actually it sort of plays a little phrase, and then it sort of moves down a step, and then moves down a step, and moves down a step, and the chords that go along with that. That second half of it is just a really nice compliment to the first half, I guess.
What else have you done recently on your channel? What other video game covers have you done?
Do you know what? I do kind of forget, and it's only when I go back and actually look and I go, oh yeah, I remember that. And I think one of the ones that I think worked quite well was I did a GoldenEye 007 N64 track, which straight away when you think back to the GoldenEye music, it's instantly that classic James Bond theme, and it's always a bit hard rock anyway. So that was one of those ones where, unlike SS Ann, where I thought this might work, it might be okay, but it kind of did. This was one where I was like, this is definitely going to work because it's like a hard rocking track. And that was quite cool because that got picked up by, what was it, Unilads Gaming, like this big Facebook page. And there's another one as well, United Gaming Australia, these big Facebook pages which basically got hold of me and just said, can we stick this music on our page, and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, great. And that ended up getting shared around a lot, and I got a sort of decent chunk of subscribers from that one. So I think that was one that just resonated with a lot of people, because obviously GoldenEye was huge. It was, you know, one of the biggest N64 games, and it just worked. It was just one of those ones where off the bat, it didn't take me very long because it just sort of wrote itself, basically. So that was cool. And then the other one I was really quite happy with was there's a Super Mario Galaxy, Gusty Garden Galaxy, which is one that I did a couple of months ago. And that's just, I love that one just because it's so big and so epic. And again, the Mario Galaxy music is absolutely stunning. Some of my favorite music of all time. So that was a real pleasure to put that one together. It's got a little bit of piano in there as well, which I rarely put in. And that tends to sort of like enrich in the tracks quite a bit.
Any future plans? What do you plan on doing with the channel next?
My sort of long-term future plans really is just really kind of try and stick with it, and try and stay committed to getting content out regularly. And really, it's been tricky more recently in the last, I guess, 6 months, just because what actually happened is before that moment in March 2017, where I thought, right, I'm gonna release a video and I'm gonna start every week. I actually had a backlog of tracks which I'd recorded, and I had about 25 that were already done, already written, already recorded, already produced and mixed and mastered or whatever. I just had to do the videos. So getting one a week out then was no problem, because I just had to film a quick video and get some gameplay footage and match it up. I then sort of very quickly, well, not quickly, but gradually sort of ran out of that backlog, and now I'm in the position where I'm having to, you know, think of an idea and then sit down and figure out all the parts and then record the audio and then do the video, and trying to find that. And in sort of, you know, I'm working a full-time job as well. I got married a couple of months ago as well. So there was just a lot of busy stuff going on. And so one of my future plans is to basically get back to making sure I'm putting out content every week, because I think at the moment I'm hitting about every couple of weeks or so. I'm also going to make sure I do a bit more live streaming on my channel as well. So that's something I started to get into a little bit, where I would set up a whole live stream thing where you can actually watch me record a track from start to finish. And I open up a fresh music project and I go, right, I'm going to try and record the Star Fox 64 theme. For the most part, it's worked, but it's kind of quite a taxing thing to do, just because keeping sort of talking and recording and thinking of parts and stuff, you end up getting quite tired quite quickly. But that's something I want to get back into, because that was really good fun. And the other thing I'm doing at the moment is I'm collaborating with another YouTuber. He's another YouTuber who does video game metal covers, and I won't reveal it or spoil it just yet, just because we're still kind of working on it together. And it's basically what I can say is it's from Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time music, but it was really, really great to work with this guy. I've been a fan of his for ages, and he's got a decent sort of subscriber base on YouTube, so it'd be really great to potentially get some of my stuff out to a few more people as well. But that should be all coming together in the next few weeks. So yeah, there'll be hopefully quite a cool collaboration project coming up very soon.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Simon.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for having me. It's great to talk to you.
This has been Stephen Reich from the Pokepress Studios in Madison, Wisconsin, on the phone with Simon Loveridge, a man who does metal covers of video game music.